Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Force Weekly, brought to you by Generals Joe's Reborn.com with me as your host, Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80. For today's episode, I'm joined by the awesome Patrick Notpicard Stewart. In this regular video series, we round up all the week's news in the world of G.I. Joe. What is it, Pat?
It's a Full Force Weekly!
Yay! Back to normal again, finally. How you doing, buddy?
Doing okay. It's not anything too earth-shattering in the last couple of weeks, so we're good. Nice,
just keeping it steady. That's what I like to hear. How's everyone doing in the chat? Seeing a few of you already. Hope you're having a lovely weekend already. It's early, maybe we're starting it for you. You know, there you go. Hopefully we are, and hopefully we can make it a good one for you as well. We've got lots to talk about, Pat. And since you're back, it's been a while. We haven't really had an opportunity to talk about a lot of stuff, but we're probably not going to now because we've got a ton of other things to get stuck into. But did you enjoy SDCC, I should ask?
I wasn't there.
No, but I mean, like I wasn't there, but I enjoyed it.
Well, it was fine. There was a lot of things that were done a little bit differently than they have been in the past. Like that second floor to the Hasbro booth, I thought was an interesting addition that seems like an investment that we can probably expect for next year. I think.
That booth was insane looking as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And was that something that was constructed by the showrunners of San Diego Comic-Con or something that Hasbro built and brought in themselves, I wonder.
What I think that how it goes is that there's a team, not like a team, but like there's a company out in San Diego that does these things custom ordered sort of things. So you obviously throw in the designs and all that kind of stuff. And then I believe they do it through SDCC. I think it is anyway. That's how I understand it from other examples of things when other shows have been done. I kind of asked someone once when we were at a show years ago in like London or Birmingham, and they were like, "Oh yeah, there's a company here that do them. You just order it and they do it for you closer to the event sort of thing." So I imagine it's one of those things that they've designed, but then that has been put together by this alternate company. I'm assuming. If anyone does know in the comments, let us know. I will tell you though that that Tom Whalen art was amazing on the outside. That was adorning all the different brands and everything. That was really cool. So hoping to get Tom back on the show again to talk about that because that was really neat. Anyway, lots to get into. We'll start, Pat, with some fun mega blocks, mega constructs, mega news. We have talked about this in the past, obviously, but we've got a new image to get stuck into. So let's do it. Yes, Brian_blocks on Instagram has posted another image of Ace. Now, you cast your minds back to a few weeks ago, if you can think that far back. Brian_blocks, written there on the top there, on Instagram, posted this image of what appeared to be test shots or first shots, whatever you want to call them, of Duke and what looked to be Ace as mega constructs, mega blocks, or mega, as they are known now, figures. You can see Duke there with his secondary, his helmet, and the rifle and backpack, and you can see Ace there, like basically with no face because it's covered by that. Clearly not a clear dome so far. We talked about this already, Pat. We're both kind of quite excited for what's in store here. And now we've got a proper image of what looks to be some sort of production level Ace. What are your thoughts, mate, given seeing this now?
Yeah, it just seems like this project, whatever it may be, is moving along swiftly. I still think that we may be going a little bit too far to assume that this is a toy line more than it is a single project that will test the waters for a toy line.
Good point.
Yeah,
you know how I am. I just dive straight in.
Well, not just yourself, but as soon as I saw this, I saw a whole bunch of comments and people getting excited over what it could mean, and it could still mean all of that. My gut feeling is that we're going to see the Sky Striker as a Mattel Creations project, and then hopefully stuff to follow.
But do you think so? With the Mattel Creations, that's sort of like a crowd-funded sort of vibe, isn't it? or like a campaign almost, isn't it? Do you think it will be a standalone thing, or do you think it'd be a pick one of these sort of things? Because we've seen that before, haven't we, with Mattel Creations?
No, I mean, the pick one of these things. I don't think that they bothered going through the test shot, and I can't imagine that they would make these this far and then be like, pick whether or not you want to have us get our money back on what we've already done. No, I think that it will probably, plus how many of these parts are parts that exist, or parts that they could get their money back using them some other way. Well, maybe they couldn't use them in some other way. But no, I think that it's pretty safe to bet that we'll probably just get a Sky Striker on Mattel Creations, and they may look at those numbers at the very least to inform what they can do with the rest of a G.I. Joe line, because, or it may even just be to promote a further G.I. Joe line, because that seemed to be what the Optimus Prime was on Mattel Creations. I don't think they were testing the waters on a transforming Hot Wheels line as much as they were pushing, hey, we're going to have Hot Wheels Transformers at retail. So here is one transforming Optimus Prime. But I don't think that we'll necessarily see these at retail. I did see some Mega Brand Hot Wheels stuff that you could build at Ollie's whenever I was there. But again, that's at a closeout store. That's not something that I saw at Target.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we may see something on Amazon. They may be available at online retailers. That's kind of where I'm thinking this line will end up. I don't know that we'll see it at brick and mortar. If we do, I'll be really impressed.
Yeah, funny you should say brick and mortar, because I was thinking the head looked like something from Rick and Morty, and I always think brick and mortar when I hear Rick and Morty, but the eyes are giving proper Rick and Morty vibes to me. And like not even like a main character, but like one of the background characters that you see in the show. Anyway, I kind of agree with that. I think, yeah, it's probably a good idea to suggest that this is probably something for like a larger project in sort of more like, like a Mattel Creations sort of vibe that is going to like inform them on whether they should even go forward with the line. I would also say, though, with these kind of things, you can't leave it too long and wait for certain things to, it's difficult to do that and then get things out in a timely manner is what I would say. But I think at least with what Mega is in terms of little action figures for G.I. Joe, you could probably churn out quite a few amounts of figures in a short period of time. Well, I say short period of time, in a shorter period of time than it would take to create a classified figure or a O-ring figure, especially, or anything like that. You've probably got a shorter time period here going on in terms of what you can create, and how many of these you can fit in a steel mold as well is another kind of thing. You can get a lot more in a mold, so you could easily churn out more figures that way. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think there probably is an element here of let's test the waters. I would say the waters so far have been pretty positive in terms of the comments. I've seen a few people say like I'm not really into Mega Blocks, only a few though, and everyone else is like, yes, bring on G.I. Joe Mega. You're definitely in the bring on G.I. Joe Mega camp, right, Pat?
Yeah, money is tight anymore, and keeps being spread out amongst so many different things, with the way that there's just one collector item after another.
Yeah.
In recent years, and I've scaled back on classified. So I don't want to say that I'm all in and then end up finding out they're going to do 200 figures in the first year.
All vehicle sets.
I could see myself ordering this. I loved the Creo line, and still wish that would have continued for maybe another 4 or 5 waves at least. But we'll see where this goes. I'll probably pre-order it. I like the way that Ace looks here. I'll be sad that if I can't get one and I can see that's this far.
Right, totally. Stephen Kelly. Hello, Stephen. He says, afternoon, morning, lads. Loved the Motu Mega Constructs toys. Really excited for these. Would love a huge G.I. Joe Pit set. I will say the opportunity for big play sets is so much cooler and easier and more affordable with this Mega Bloks line, and it does make me excited that we could get something as cool as like the Turtles Technodrome, or like, you know, the Sewer playset and things like that. So, or Castle Grays. Did they do Grayskull? I'm pretty sure they did, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Snake Mountain as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the fact that they, you know, have done those at that mega scale, I'd love to see a pit. Like the Sunbow HQ would be really fun. A Terradrome would be amazing. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there for really cool, bigger sets, and I think that makes me excited for something really awesome there. I do agree with you though. There is an element at the moment where I think it's affecting most, if not all, collectors, is the fact that there is so much out there, so much to choose from, all these different brands doing very good, awesome stuff, that you get to the point where it's like you've got to pick and choose. You've got to be careful with things. And it gets to the point where, you literally can't keep up anymore. I struggled just keeping up with the information coming out of SDCC, let alone like just for G.I. Joe, let alone like every other element and item that was being, you know, shown off and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's definitely that aspect of it, but things move forward at the end of the day, and if lines are successful, they're going to stick around, and if other things come out beyond that, that's also going to happen. So I'm kind of looking at it like, I do want this to exist. I don't know how much I can get into it, but I'm definitely excited to see where it goes and where I'll be when they finally hit stores, I would say.
Yeah, there's been so much stuff coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. I just kind of became at peace with the fact that I missed most of it.
Same.
And hopefully the information will come back around to me.
I was finding out stuff yesterday that came out at SDCC, and I'm like, missed that completely. And obviously, I'm not talking about just a bit of information. I'm talking about an actual full-on action figure reveal, and I'm like, yeah, I totally missed that. Anyway, that is Ace and Duke technically for G.I. Joe possible mega in the future. I mean, this is more than possible now, but I mean, as in a possible line and a more likely possible Mattel Creations vibe that Pat was talking about. Anyway, moving on. And next up, Pat, we have some more NFTs to talk about. Are you excited? Let's do it. Yes, it's the 21st. I think it's the 21st reveal. I've lost count. Of Hiya Toys exquisite miniseries for G.I. Joe. It is the Cobra Viper. Can I say, before we continue, Pat, because I know we're going to talk about it in depth, this sort of, we'll talk about it first before we get into the figure. Let's get this out of the way. We've talked about it in the past, but Hiya Toys are revealing more than they can actually put out. The problem is, I only see this with G.I. Joe. I don't see it with any of the other lines they do. I don't see the amount of characters. And obviously that's probably down to the brands they've got not having as many characters. But like, they're not putting this amount of pre-order visuals out with all the other brands. They're getting like, say, 4 out, and then eventually they're coming to fruition while 4 more are being revealed. At the moment, we've seen 2 figures have delivered on 21, possibly more, pre-orders. What's going on, mate?
Yeah, I really don't know. At this point, they need to, you know, maybe they need to start showing us packaging or something for the figures that have not come out yet. You know, find some way of re-teasing those ones that are still hopefully coming soon, because showing more stuff, I mean, how many years of Hiya stuff? How many years is their pipeline going to be of actually delivering figures?
That is a hell of a pipeline.
I mean, what's the price on this figure? Because if it's not coming till 2030, what's going to be the price of them by then? You know what
I mean? Yeah, you ordered it for $25, but it's actually 3,500 quadrillion squamalians, which will be the new form of currency by that point.
Right.
You make a note of that, guys. Squamalians will be the next currency. I don't know where that came from. I think I was half thinking about Bucky O'Hare and what they pay Al Negator. I think they pay him in. What do they pay Al Negator in? He says like his fee, and I always forget it. Let me know in the comments, but it's similar to that. It's got that sort of vibe to it. Anyway, enough of that. Yeah, I feel that Hiya, like, I don't know if they're doing this as a thing now. Like, it's almost like they're known for it with the G.I. Joe Exquisite Mini, so it's like they're playing up to it. But I don't understand why. There must be. I mean, obviously, there's some sort of delay. There's some sort of issue that's being ironed out. It must be in the manufacturing. It must be in like the, some sort of part might not be. They're trying to fix or get sorted or get correct, and it's taking a long time. These things happen in the factory process, but at that point you'd sort of like knock your line plan down a bit, wouldn't you? You'd kind of go, okay, so let's say this delay is causing a bit of a backup. Let's maybe hold off on some reveals until next year and move that line plan out a little bit. But I don't know, are we going to get a multi-pack of 20 figures?
I can only imagine how much that would cost.
Could you imagine?
I mean, they probably do need to ship these things in waves of several figures just to get them out there, because it's bonkers how many of them that they've revealed and not shipped. And honestly, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow at this point need to be reissued as well.
Right. The technology's changed since they were made. I would say that for one of the things, shipping in waves is a good idea, because if they ship this all at once, it's going to cause a bit of an issue. Unless I think you pay at the pre-order stage, right? With Hiya, am I correct in saying that?
I know that I paid for Snake Eyes. He never arrived. The seller told me he's not going to refund it.
Right.
And then I paid for Baroness, Major Blood, and Cobra Commander, I think. And
was that through Small Joe's?
No, it was before Small Joe's announced that they were going to be selling them.
Right.
So yeah, I'm kind of holding out for Small Joe's, but I don't know. I don't know when this stuff's going to.
Here's the point that I made earlier. Stygian just said, what's ironic is Hiya produces and ships plenty, just not these. It's like, yeah, that seems to be the issue. I don't know. I'm trying at this point. I'm trying to think like what it could be that's holding up the entire line like this. Because you'd think, okay, if it's one figure and one issue, move on to the next thing. But it could be something that's affecting all of the figures, like at the base level maybe of the construction. I don't know. I have no clue. It would be great to know.
Is there a license issue though? Because it's still very weird that they were making G.I. Joe, but it wasn't going to be available to the United States at all at first.
Could be that. It could be something that's holding the play up. It could be that. It could be that they want to ship it on a larger scale and they're trying to work that out, negotiate it. I don't know. Possibly. Yeah. Yes, this particular release for this particular Viper is stated at Q2 of 2025. But who knows, right?
It's just weird to me too, the license that they have that allows them to not release much of anything, but to keep showing things.
Yeah. You think that would be a bit stricter, definitely.
Yeah, anyway. Exactly. Like, are you really going to still have the license by the time you get to Viper?
That's another good point. That's another good point, because the licenses run out. It's not like an indefinite thing. Or you can kind of keep re-upping it if the licensor are happy with it. So yeah, that's a very, very good point. Now let's talk about the figure itself, because we've talked about the issues with that in the past to death now, but it's still worth mentioning every time we see another reveal, because we have to keep that alive until something new shows up. So first of all, Pat, what do you think? They've obviously gone a slightly different direction. They've kind of done a similar thing they did with the Cobra Trooper, in that they've kind of put their own little design twist on it, while still keeping fairly true to the aesthetic, I would say. What do you think?
yeah, it's a decent looking figure. Still a little put off by the way the legs attach to the waist there. There's just a huge gap between the legs.
Yeah, yeah, that is an interesting design choice, isn't it?
So,
It
yeah,
doesn't
I'm
look.
sure that they're getting tons of feedback from all the people that have all the other figures in hand to help them inform how they design future figures.
Yeah,
Don't you think that's a little bit
I do.
maybe part of the problem? They're going to have designed so many figures before they had feedback on any of the earlier ones. It's a problem.
Yeah, totally. I should state that this is an officially licensed product.
Right, right.
For those that are thinking this is some sort of like IP situation, no, they officially licensed the GI Joe brand from Hasbro, but the license agreement is they can only sell in Asia, like direct. So I think some negotiations have slightly changed there, where they've been able to. I don't know if it's got anything to do with Small Joes, or if Small Joes are just ordering them in a slightly more item sizes and are just selling them in the US. I don't know what the deal is with
Well,
that.
I thought that they said that they'd be available through Diamond as well. Remember, there was a
Yeah, they said
mention
keep
of
an
that.
eye on that. Yeah, they
So
said keep
maybe
an eye on
Small
that.
Joe's
Definitely.
is going to make sure that they're going to get them via that channel. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Either way, this is an officially licensed product, so there's no like IP theft, as it were, in this particular situation. But no, I have to agree with you on that one, Pat. I think if they're taking a lot of feedback and incorporating that into the figure design, that can also hold a lot of things up, can't it? If you're changing things that are already further down the line,
Well, no, I
design-wise.
mean, like sometimes people have figures in hand. I was being kind of sarcastic.
All right.
You get a figure in hand, and then it's like, well, I don't like the way this joint works, or
So, got it.
by the time that the full toy line has been sort of play tested, sometimes that's when you find out that your maybe the shoulders are no good or the hips have a problem.
Or the
And I
gap between
mean,
the legs is a bit wide. Yeah.
right. These are being constructed the same way as plenty of their other figures, so maybe they're not so worried about that. But we'll see what happens whenever people actually start getting some more of them beyond Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow.
Definitely. I think Cobra Commander was supposed to be next up, and then I believe Major Blood started popping up as possibly shipping soon, which kind of surprised me.
Okay.
So people might be getting Major Blood soon, which again is an interesting one. It's a great figure, but that was like reveal number 12 or 13 or something like that. So you wonder where they are in
It
terms of
really feels like 3 years ago, but it wasn't. But it
no,
does feel like 3 years ago. I actually looked, and I think I paid for them like 10 months ago.
yeah. It feels long though, doesn't it? It really
It does.
does. Hydra says these figures look awesome, but at this point, I've completely lost interest in this line. I mean, it does inform, doesn't it? It does go into that. Like, if something takes a really long time to come out, you can like phase out a little bit, or like switch off and kind of end up somewhere else, because that's the collector mentality in a sense. But you can kind of like move away from it, can't you, almost, or like maybe even like bury it a little bit and go, well, I'm never going to see that, let's move on to something else shiny and new. So that does actually, it has an impact.
Yeah, and that's where I think that this line is making its mistake. I mean, regardless of how good this figure looks, stop showing the figures. Start showing more development levels of the stuff that needs to ship. Show us Cobra Commander in the package.
Yeah. Stygian says, I have had Beachhead on PO, but that was one squadrillion years ago. Close. I don't think that's what I said. I'm gonna have to go back and find out what I actually said in terms of currency, but it's a good number, Stygian. I like it. What else? Someone official from Hiya needs to make a statement. That would help, I think.
Yeah.
They aren't shipping strictly within the Asian market either, because that's how I got the first two, direct from Asia. I think it's more so, what I mean is with that one, they're not allowed to have retail partners outside of Asia. So was it Robot Kingdom can buy them, and then they can do what they can do with them what they will. So you got it from RK, right? I guess, or from what's the other one? Robot Kingdom. There was another one out of Asia as well that was selling them. But effectively, if those companies can get hold of them, they're going to, like I say, they're going to sell them to who they want to sell them to. Unless you got it from, I know actually you could order them from the website as well, couldn't you? I'm pretty sure you could, but the shipping was mental, or no one seemed to get them. I can't remember what the outcome was.
I remember when I first looked to buy Snake Eyes, it was going to cost $50 to $60.
It was expensive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were put off because it was more expensive than the figure, obviously. Anyway, yeah, cool. So looking at the figure at the moment, here's the backpack as well, and the kind of like the weapon storage for the backpack. That's different as well, I want to say, to what we actually get with the classified Viper. I don't have a comparison, but I do have a Viper nearby, don't I? I thought, oh no, they're over there now, miles away. So yeah, doesn't look like the same backpack. No, but pretty cool. I do like the design. I think it's pretty nifty. I like the secondary.
I do too. Yeah.
The secondary's kind of cool with those like angled like pouches or whatever they are. They're really neat. They might actually be something else, but I think they're pouches. Anyway,
they really angled those goggles.
Oh, the goggles are cool, aren't they?
I think it's cool how they're kind of see-through right there on top of the helmet.
Not just that, but the fact that they like sit on some sort of element of the helmet to make like a little holder, almost like a little nose.
Oh yeah.
Clip.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that is the case or if it's just showing underneath the goggles, but I could see that being like an element that sticks out. If there isn't an image that shows the goggles off, I don't think there is. I think the goggles are on there. Maybe
I don't think the
permanently.
goggles move because they go down to that spot on the ear, and it doesn't look like they would actually. I don't think there's a function to move them. I mean, when have we ever gotten a Viper? Well, we have, but not too many Vipers actually have the ability to put goggles down on the mask.
RKW says the goggles never made sense to me. G.I. Joe's not about making sense. It's about cute little design things that have no practical value whatsoever, and I'm here for it. Some shots of the like the backgrounds, like no dire shots here, so we can see fairly clearly the figure and all of its details, which is nice. When I first saw these, Pat, no kidding, I think it was a little what's the word, like a hallucination more than anything, but I thought we were looking at a gold visor on the face mask, and I thought, is that gold or bronze? But no, it's just a little kind of, it's definitely brushed chrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I genuinely, I just thought it was some sort of like, but it looks, they've just dirtied it up a bit is what's happened, and my eyes have played tricks on me. But yeah, I think it's really cool looking figure. Do you expect to see it in the near future? Do you expect to see it Q2 of 2025?
I do expect these to start hitting fast.
Yeah,
that is my expectation. Like I could see them shipping 2 figures a month for like a whole year, just
easy
to get into what they've already done.
Easy. They have to at this point. Yeah, cool. And there's the loadout. We've got the pistol, spare hands, a couple of rifles. We've got the backpack, 2 daggers, and the figure stand. Yeah, that comes with all of them. Well, I say comes with all of them. Comes with 2 of them so far. And then this I just threw up here just to show the comparison between the 2 designs. Quite clearly, there is a lot of difference between these 2 figures. The legs are fairly similar, but there are differences there. Even like the gauntlets are slightly different. The deco obviously is different, and of course the secondary and helmet. There's a lot of difference here. It's not, they're not taking from the classified design really a great deal, are they?
It seems like they've moved on from basing things on early classified designs as well, and are just sort of doing their own thing at this point.
Which was something we did speculate on back in the day, wasn't it? We said, like, where were they going to go with it? How are they going to, are they going to do different things? And here's your answer, basically. Yeah. Would you, I mean, Pat, I know, like you said, you've moved away from classified a little bit. Is this a figure that you would like to see in the classified series, like as a design, or
to be honest, I probably would be all in on these if they were already coming, and if the one that I paid for had delivered, and if they would deliver the other ones that I've already paid for. But at this point, I really can't tell you what will happen with me in the future. If they start delivering at the speed that they need to just to get caught up, that's probably more than I want to spend in a short period of time on these. You know,
Yeah.
I want to have some of them in hand to have a feel of how I feel about the line before I go all in on this many figures.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And what about classified? Would you like to see the design in classified?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you were asking me that.
No, that's fine.
Not really. No.
We've got enough Vipers in the classified series, haven't we?
There's quite enough Vipers. And I mean,
there's another one coming as well.
Right. So if we're going to get a classified already has their classified Viper, and then if we're going to get a retro Viper, let's have that. But not really. I wouldn't care to see this in 6 inches now.
Cool. Just wanted to throw it out there. Right. Next up, we have, well, quite a huge amount of classified news to discuss. And I've thrown in some last minute additions. Yes, in the moments we went live, new things have been unearthed and sent and shared. So we'll be talking about them on the show before I post them on the socials, of course. But let's go for it. A bit of classified update. Yes, we've had pre-order fiascos. We've got HasLab updates. We've got more image leaks, including even newer image leaks that I just got moments before going live. And we've got an update on Nemesis Immortal. It's actually why we were a few minutes late today, because I was drastically trying to add these things to the lineup. Now, as well, and I've thrown this in here as well, it's not technically classified, but it is classified adjacent. And that is that Fans Hobby have made a post on Facebook regarding the Sky Eagle that they have been, promoting for a while. Now, for the longest time, well, not for the longest time, but for the last couple of weeks, everything had been removed from their page regarding the Sky Eagle and the website, in actual fact. And I think a lot of people just jumped to the point of, well, it's clear what's happened here. What with it not being an officially licensed product and taking very heavily from an original design, we got an update by Fans Hobby today explaining that many of you are aware, or may be aware, that the VE01 Air Eagle was taken out from our page. The reason is VE01 gets into a copyright issue with an item launched 30 years ago. That's, I think, written in a way to make it sound like it's a bit ridiculous, but I mean, it's still an issue. That's why we need to.
And to be fair, there have been more Skyhawks in more recently than 30 years ago.
That's another good point. There's been a lot more since then. Anyway, they said that new parts are added and components relocations are made. Components relocations are made. It just means that things have been moved around. More details to be revealed next week. Sorry for the inconvenience caused to our resellers and fans who give supports to this project. Please stay tuned to the update. So yeah, you can keep an eye on that on their Facebook page, Fans Hobby, Facebook, and all their other socials. But as you can see, the image they've posted does show a couple of different kind of changes. But before we get into that, Pat, you did mention it just then. We talked about this a while ago, again in depth, when we were talking about the reveal and more images of this vehicle. Are you surprised at this outcome?
To be honest, yeah. It hasn't been very many times where Hasbro has taken action on some of the things. And it makes you wonder, is the Skyhawk in development? And that's why they might be going after this one.
Because it feels that way.
It does.
Feels that way.
If we're not going to be getting a Skyhawk for 5 years, then why would you bother to do this? But
can I just say, by the way, I kept saying Sky Eagle before. It's Air Eagle. My fault. My bad on that one.
Okay, Air Eagle.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry about that, guys.
It's the not Skyhawk.
Yes, just call it that. I think I did read out Air Eagle because I was reading it, but before that, pretty sure. I was saying Sky Eagle. My fault. But yeah, I'm with you on this. I think there's an element here on. I am surprised that they've done it, but they did do it for Ramen. I'm pretty sure they threw a C&D out for Ramen. But it's slightly different with Ramen. I feel like they take the C&D and they don't necessarily change much, other than like they don't sell it in a certain way, or they do it. They still do it though, don't they? Do you know what I mean? Like there's still the ability to get that Thunderhawk and stuff like that.
That's a recurring thing amongst several companies. You know, doing unofficial items. Who put out that Unicron at the same time that the HasLab Unicron was happening? There was the company that was given a C&D to not release their Unicron, and so they released it headless. And as a free bonus to all of the people that bought the headless figure, you got in a separate package the head, which means that they pretty much just did it anyway.
Exactly. It's just finding ways around it, and sometimes those ways around it technically aren't the way around it, but it doesn't seem to. Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter at the end of the day.
Like, yeah, I don't know how that works out sometimes for a C&D that somebody were to get. We'll see what goes on with this. I'm curious about the added parts. Are they things that you can just move aside?
Yeah,
and then just build it the way that it originally looked anyway.
I'm telling you, I think that's a great way to do it. 2, it doesn't actually it's the same thing. It doesn't get around the issue that you're having with the C&D, but they think it does. But at the same time, I mean, that would be how I would probably approach it. I'd probably just do it so you get those extended like side panels sticking out. You just take them off the end, take the extenders off, and put them back in the original spot. That's probably what I think everyone's probably going to do. And the same, you'll probably have a thing. It looks like the skids are wider, doesn't it? I would think, or something's happened with this.
I think is that a shadow? That's a shadow from the missile that's next to one of the skids.
Yeah, I meant put out. They go out.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's possible. And the thrusters are definitely out and more to the side, like a little bit lower than they would be on a Skyhawk.
Yeah, probably because they're connected to whatever that extended wing piece is, right?
Are they?
Oh, no, they're not. Sorry, that's my fault. No, you're right.
Lower
I thought they were attached to the wing pieces above them. No, of course they're not. No, they're attached to the body. No, you're right. I get it.
Yeah, and it looks like they've added missiles to the extended wing pieces. So
yeah, they have 100%.
Maybe people will actually enjoy this new configuration. And to be honest, maybe if you really want one of these in your collection, maybe this will provide some sort of option for whenever. Like once Hasbro ships theirs, maybe you could have this one look very, very different from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think
Brian
not going to happen.
49 Brian has asked, C&D, educate me. So basically, stop what you're doing or we will sue you. Is effectively what it is. Yeah, cease and desist is that initial kind of like, please stop what you're doing. And yeah, and then or there will be legal ramifications. So there's no like, at this point, it's not like anyone other than the loss of tooling that they've gone through and all that kind of stuff. Obviously that's going to be the main issue here, but there's no legal fees at this point.
Right.
So bonus. Anyway, Justin said now it looks like it might actually be able to fly. That's so funny. That's too funny. That is too funny. Joey says they swapped the location of the thrusters and the side fins. Yeah, they have. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool. I think if it is what we're expecting here, and that you can probably take some of these elements off and reconfigure it into the other version, I think that's one way of getting around it, honestly. And yeah, they don't have to make a big deal of it. They don't have to make that, make people aware. But I think we'll be able to see that you can do that when you get the figure in hand or the vehicle in hand. Anyway, we wanted to mention this because it was posted today or yesterday or last night or whatever the hell you call it, late in the morning, early in the evening. I don't know when it was recently is the word I'm looking for. So we wanted to talk about it quickly while they made that change. Anyway, more to come next week, it would appear. Now, HasLab update. We've got the patches, Pat. That's safe, right? Patches are safe, so we're good. Really,
we wanted.
We didn't even want the base. I think the base package should have been the patches, and tier 1 should have been the Rattler Wild Weasel and all the add-ons. That's what I think should have happened personally.
To be fair, I think that they should do patches more often.
Yeah.
Like, as much as people are upset about them, there's so many logos that have been done classically. I mean, PatchZar does an amazing job of
amazing job. Shout out to PatchZar, 100%.
Shout out to him. If you are looking for some, like, for real, like, you can get a lot of great G.I. Joe stuff straight from him.
Yes.
At the same time, Hasbro just should have been doing that themselves for a long time. So I don't think that the patches were a bad thing. I do feel like the campaign's light one figure.
Yeah.
But you know, it is what it is. No,
I agree with you on that one, mate. I think the patches probably would have been better as like an additional bonus, or maybe even in the base offering of like, hey, because we funded, everyone gets these patches. Do you know what I mean? Rather than like make it a tier. I think it probably would have been a better thing to do.
Patches maybe could have even been something that they handed out at San Diego in order to promote this campaign, and then everybody would be, you know, paying $100 a patch on eBay for them right now.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
or check this out, right? Early bird funding special. That's what would have worked. If it had been like, if this funds within like 24 hours, I'm stealing this from 49 O'Brien, who mentioned it in the comments. Sorry, 49 O'Brien, I'm calling it out now. But if it funds in that time period, everyone gets this. Because we had an early bird for the Hiss tank. It was the tactician, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there's two different ways of going about that early funding. I think you are right. I think it was for funding quickly. But there's almost two ways of going about that. It's everybody who ordered early, or everybody gets it if it funds early.
Yeah, right, totally.
And I think that second one is a little bit of a better way to go, because for me, it's like, oh, I don't get everything even if I back it.
Right.
Because I didn't back it in the first week.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. I think that's discouraging to people, even if it is something just like patches.
Yeah, but, Rachel says patches at Dollar General, maybe not in a HasLab. Exactly. That's what we're getting at. We're getting at them to do them as like additions rather than like,
I mean, even like if you look at other campaigns that we've backed, like Skeletron did like surprise stretch goal bonus, and it was just like nice to have that in there. I think that patches would have been great if there was like a little bit of a gap between some of the stretch goals, and they had just been like, hey, everybody, we're happy with where it is right now, and we're giving you all these patches.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it would just hit all the news channels of G.I. Joe again by doing that.
Totally agree with you on that one. I think that it's sort of a missed opportunity there as well, technically. But yeah, anyway, the Gunner is going to be unlocked at 14,000 orders. We're at 13,300, I think it was last time I looked before we went on live. I'm going to check.
I've no doubt that stuff is going to hit. Some of it may hit on the last day, though.
Oh yeah, I think we're going to get the Gunner probably, you know, soonish. I think that'll be like in the next couple of days, probably. But in terms of the Baroness, which is at like, I think 18,000. Let's have a look. Yeah, she's at 18,000 orders. I could see that being the top end last couple of days sort of vibe. I agree with you on that one. I don't think it's going to go beyond what we've seen with other HasLabs necessarily for G.I. Joe. And I don't think it's going to hit record numbers in terms of, you know, like how what the Hiss tank ended on. But I think it'll still do really well. And again, it already has done really well. This is the funny thing. Like, we're kind of a bit skewed at the moment on what is successful with the brand. And this is still, take the other things out of the, you know, out of the situation right now. If you're just looking at this as a G.I. Joe thing, you know, maybe even take the Classified series out of your mindset. This would be one of those things where you're like, wow, G.I. Joe's back. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you'd be like, wowzers. Yeah, it's at 13,388. So not that far away from 14K. And then, of course, like I said, I think you were right on that one. I think this will be like a later in the game unlock. Like probably in that kind of frenzy of the last couple of days sort of vibe.
Yeah, I could see that happening. A lot of the stuff in this campaign is we haven't even talked about this, I don't think. I've been on to talk about the Rattler yet.
We might not have done, no.
No. Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that's in there is very geared toward going with the Rattler.
Yeah.
Not like we got with the Dragonfly. So, I don't know how that is. I don't know. I don't want to say that's affecting things.
It's a good point.
It does feel like it's a tighter a tighter amount of things.
That's a good point. Yeah, like it's you're right. It's like with the Dragonfly, you've got a couple of guys there who, yeah, they can ride in the Dragonfly, but they're very unlikely going to be deployed from the Dragonfly as, you know, blooming paratroopers or what have you. I think like someone like Airborne would have been directly attached to the Dragonfly, but they didn't want to do that because they wanted to keep that figure available on a larger scale. Whereas, you know, like a Night Force redeco and a couple of Night Force redecos and a foreign kind of homage sort of makes more sense in you know, in that kind of like rollout for a HasLab. But I agree with you. It's like Wild Bill and Glenda makes sense, but like maybe Ripcord and Crazy Legs. I mean, they're kind of related, but it's not like they're connected necessarily to the Dragonfly. Do you know what I mean? Like saying, well, I guess that's what you were saying anyway. Yeah.
I mean, like Glenda's a pilot, but didn't necessarily need to come with that campaign. I mean, I guess that's the truth here for Baroness as well, but she seems made up to be themed to the Rattler.
100%.
Rather than Glenda, that we're just, you know, getting Glenda as she would have been.
Do you expect to see a kind of retro Baroness done utilizing this figure with the blue and the yellow?
I don't know if I want to call it retro. It could just end up being somewhere in the existing in the classified line. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that they're that this itself is like a pre-paint or a pre-tool of some sort. For another Baroness that will look like the Mass Device Baroness, as well as the issue #1, like the early Marvel Baroness. Yeah, I think that's totally what we're seeing here.
I agree, and you can kind of in some images of the figure, like on the SDCC kind of display, you could kind of almost see sort of design elements in there that you know, if you take the secondary off, you could probably go, oh, I can see what they're doing there. It's almost like a pre-paint in a similar way they did Glenda in the HasLab for a retro Scarlet. I could see them also doing like a pre-paint Baroness for like that kind of thing as well. Thanks for the super chat. I'm not even sure if I should put it up there because people are going to think I'm doing my own super chats. I'm going to do it anyway. But whoever did this, hilarious. Thank you. To pay for the Rattler, I invite everyone to join my OnlyFans page. These HasLabs aren't cheap. That's hilarious, whoever it was. And thank you very much for the super chat. I know people are going to think I did this. I did not. As nothing. If you think I can multitask like that, then you don't know me at all. So thank you to whoever Diagnostic Naked HD is. That's hilarious. And also good knowledge of the show to be, you know, using that whole Naked HD vibe. Thank you, guys. Brilliant stuff. But actually, that will help in funding the for me, for my funding. Anyway, yeah, that's the Baroness. And the HasLab Rattler. What, before we move on then, Pat, because we haven't spoken about this yet, do you like the Rattler? Is it something that makes you go, that's really cool, or are you indifferent? Or do you hate it?
You know, like Hasbro's presentation was what kind of made me go from excited to lukewarm on it.
Really?
Yeah, because when they started showing off all the features, like the features part of it was just like, yeah, that's on the other Rattler. That's on the other Rattler.
Right.
Yeah, that's sitting in my basement right now.
I see what you
don't
mean.
need this.
I see what you mean.
I mean, there are some things like the spring-activated landing gear. Mine, if I activate the landing gear on my Rattler, it'll spring off permanently.
It's an ejector. It's a missile now.
Yeah, but you know, it doesn't give me really the feeling of, wow, I've always wanted one of these.
Right.
This is something I've never had before. That's just not there with this project for me at all. And for the people that are excited for it, good. I'm glad that you're going to be getting a vehicle that you will have wanted, you know, amongst your collection. It's definitely iconic. I actually have a weird feeling about the Rattler anyway in G.I. Joe. It's always been one of those things that I like the real world military stuff to kind of inform G.I. Joe rather than dictate it. So whenever people criticize the fact that an A-10 Warthog couldn't keep up with a Sky Striker in real life, it's like, that's true, but in G.I. Joe they do. You know, they dogfight in G.I. Joe.
Yeah, and also it's not technically an A-10, is it? I mean, it's
not.
It's redesigned slightly and has a V-stol capability. So yeah,
that is true. But as a kid, it was just like, yeah, that doesn't look right.
Yeah,
even as a kid, I was not totally sold on the Rattler going that fast. So
if you watch any Sunbow episode, you'll see dogfights involving the Dragonfly and like the Night Raven, and they're like battling each other in this, and you're just like, come on. Even as a kid, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But you still see it.
A dogfight with a Night Raven and some jump jetpacks if you want to. This doesn't make any sense.
It reminds me of that Simpsons episode where is it Sideshow Bob is stealing the Wright brothers plane and he's flying it about 5 feet off the ground at like 10 miles an hour, and they send jets out to intercept him. And they go, we're about ready to intercept, and they just fly straight past him, and they're like, we failed to intercept, we're gonna proceed on foot. And then they're just walking behind him, just like trying to anyway, just reminded me of that. I always think of that when I watch Sunbow episodes and you've got like helicopters fighting fighter jets. It's just like, oh, come on. Anyway, that makes me laugh. Anyway, yes, that is the Rattler update. Moving on, we also have the Hasbro Pulse exclusive pre-order fiasco to talk about, Pat. Now, I know you're okay, mate, aren't you? You got sorted out, so you didn't have to go through any of this.
Yes, that's right. Right here.
Let's rub it in. Rub it into everyone. Look at that.
Dialing back on classified. And I'm not out altogether. I'm just dialing back.
Look at that lenticular cover. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I'm so excited to see that in real life. I mean, I know this is technically real life. You're not an AI. But I'm excited to see this in hand is the word I should use. Brilliant stuff. Yeah. So anyway, Pat's sorted. He doesn't care. But we're going to talk about this anyway, because I think it's worth getting your opinion on what the heck happened. Let's take it kind of not chronologically. So SDCC happens. There is obviously a few comments made officially about exclusives going up after the show. No specific date is made in regards to the G.I. Joe exclusives, but the Marvel team revealed some information that it's going up on August the 5th, or at least their exclusives are on August the 5th. So we assume that August the 5th is where we're probably going to get Cobra Commander as well. So I must have fielded about, not even kidding, hundreds of questions. Some I fielded and some I let other people deal with in comments and stuff. But I saw people saying, when is this going up for pre-order? Do we have an official date yet? And variations on that kind of question. And it was interesting to me that they didn't just have a date set for this. Like, that was clearly an afterthought, or it felt like an afterthought. That, you know, you'd think that they could at least say on the final day, made a post to say the exclusives will be going up on Hasbro Pulse on this date, and that would have given everyone like the clear indication.
Yeah,
even just 1 or 2 days advance. Like if they'd have let us know on the Friday that it was going to be the following Monday, that would have helped a lot of people, I think. I mean, for most people, you're talking like they're going to be at work or what have you. This particular post goes up on Monday morning, kind of about 8 o'clock-ish in the morning Eastern. So we knew for a fact they were going to be going up later that day. I think, was it 11? It was 11 a.m. EST, I think. So it was like a couple of hours we got, really, heads up. And not everyone is available at that time period in the day. Some people are working, some people are commuting to work, some people are already at work and can't actually access a laptop or whatever, or their phone. So it just felt to me like a little bit, we've told everyone should be aware, we've given enough updates kind of thing. And I felt that was probably the first fail in this exercise. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that things can go down and a lot of different ways that they've tried things. And there's never going to be a time where a few hours beforehand letting people know that that's going to be for sale is going to be a good way of doing things. That just is never going to be the case.
Yep, I have to agree with that one. They have done very recently. They did a random drop. I think it was Tiger Force Wreckage, was it? And the Tiger Paw, was it that one that was dropped on the same day and no one knew it was coming out, and then it just appeared and they did it as a It was a surprise drop. Lots of people had issues with it being a surprise drop, missed out on it as well. So then it was a fact of, well, we'll get it in Target stores, and it seems like the distribution in Target stores has been a lot to be desired again with that particular set. I've seen Roadblock and Tripwire in stores now, but I haven't seen Tiger Force and Wreckage. So again, that says to me there's a bit of a distribution issue. And then I was told that a lot of stores only got like one Tiger Force and Wreckage, or at least one case of that particular vehicle. So, and then it's like spread out, obviously.
Yeah. That was kind of how the Python Patrol flight pod was, though. Like,
yes,
it was like,
distribution.
Okay, they only got two, and then suddenly it was like, no, they got a ton, and now they're on clearance and gone.
Yeah. And I remember seeing a few images of the Python Trouble Bubble being like taking up an entire end cap in Target stores.
I didn't see that,
and it was just
I definitely saw them though. Like, if I had wanted,
Brian Sauer sent me a message. He went to his Target. And he bought like, how many did he buy? There was a ton he picked up basically, and they were on clearance as well. And I'm just like, that's not fair. I can't find it anywhere. And any of the 15 Targets around me, and you've been able to, So anyway, that is one of those things I think Target have. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's out of Hasbro's hands at that point, and Target then have really got to distribute that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's kind of a bonus that we're not getting the standard version of the vehicles from Target or Walmart.
Yeah.
We're getting them from Hasbro. So it is kind of nice to not have to worry about, getting the RAM. And, well, the RAM, I guess, was through Target in places. But like the Vamp and the standard flight pod, like, it is nice that those didn't just go to one store that got 100 of them at clearance and the other stores didn't. So it's not been great, but I don't know. I still kind of think that Wreckage will probably still be showing up. Like, that's something that's just now starting to drop. So I don't know if I want to say that it's bad distribution as much as I want to say it's not yet happened.
Not yet distributed. Yeah, very, very, very possibly. And again, that's totally valid point. Then we move on in the chronology here to the actual pre-order itself. Now, one of the I would say issue 2, so communicating the actual date and then dropping it, last minute, was issue 1. Issue 2 was probably for me the issues that people are having with not only the app but the new website update. And I personally didn't have an issue with Pulse. Haven't had an issue since they've updated on the desktop. So when I'm on my desktop and I'm using the website on a laptop kind of thing, everything is fine and it works and don't have any issues, especially if I'm already like logged in and information's been updated and what have you. There are issues almost certainly with phone browsers and the app. The app is a clunky mess, according to most people that I speak to. Which is funny because I know one person at least who did order Cobra Commander on the day through the app at that moment and managed to get it. So they were either very fortunate or, whatever. I don't know what the situation is.
I think they were very fortunate. Yeah, the people locally that I know that got them, it was through the desktop.
Yeah.
If you went through the desktop, you got it. If you went through the app, you just didn't.
And the other problem with that is that not everyone has access to their laptop or a desktop at that moment in time during a Monday or like a work week. So again, if you're forced to use the app or the phone browser, that kind of puts you at a disadvantage. Now, issue 3 for me, and I think you'll agree with this one, Pat, limited to 5 pieces per customer.
Yeah, I mean, the number that they limit this to is 2. That's how many it should be. But whenever they limited it to 5, I thought to myself, well, they've done a very large run of them, and they're worried that if they put it at 2, that they wouldn't sell out.
Right.
And sometimes panic is the promotion.
Right.
And I kind of think that they just may feel like, hey, if we limit it to 5, everyone will get one somehow.
I think that's definitely what happened there. I think there was an element of like, we've done a lot of these, and I think at the end of the convention, because they still had a lot and they were, kind of the restrictions came off on the last day at SDCC, that probably also informed that as well. But you're right, it caused what was effectively a lot of problems. And then, of course, we're talking minutes that this sold out in, and that takes us back. I think that takes us back a bit, because we got to the point where even with the really popular stuff, we were having like 15 minutes to half an hour to get that pre-order in. And that was pretty steady for a long period of time.
Yeah.
We got past that Target issues, the Walmart issues, which I think were bots mainly.
Bots, yeah,
but
for sure.
we had those issues, the battle online troopers, as we called them. We had those issues with bots with them, and then it felt like there were certain things put in place to definitely help that. And we've definitely got to a point where it wasn't as bad trying to get this stuff. Maybe that kind of gave us a false sense of security for this, but all of a sudden we have all these other issues to kind of deal with. And I hope that all I'll say about this is I hope they learn from it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree. But how much learning do they really need? The other big things that are different is that last year they did codes at San Diego, and this year they showed up with product in hand.
Yeah.
I don't know what the decision is there. Maybe they feel like people walking around with the item at San Diego is part of the promotion.
Possibly.
I just don't know why you want to have that distribution chaos, because then you end up with an excess of them that has to be shipped back and inventoried. And if you'll remember the Hasbro Toy Shop days, that would usually mean that there was like this week of waiting and not knowing when things were going to go up.
Yeah.
And in that week, you're like, do I buy it on eBay right now for the ridiculously high eBay price? Or do I pay an even higher price whenever it sells out in 2 seconds on Hasbro Toy Shop and all hope of getting it at retail price is gone?
Yeah.
That's what would happen every single week. And it was frustrating. Or every single year, I should say. And it was frustrating. So do you want that week gap in between, or do you want it to be almost immediate? It was relatively fast upon the heels of SDCC, and having a quantity of them on hand that they put them up for sale. So, and then aren't some of them just a pre-order again?
Yeah, so the first phase, I would call it, because obviously there's another problem that came with this, is that they kept putting it back up on, on the site. But they kept doing it like 3 a.m. in the morning, and people were kind of like, finding this out late on, ordering a bunch, and then by the time like you wake up in the morning, it's kind of sold out again. And I don't understand the reasoning behind that either. It's like, activate it at a normal time. Like, you can set it up and then activate it as in stock or whatever, or pre-order at a time that you can then promote and send an email. The other thing is the emails. There's no point using an email as an update, guys, because it's delayed anyway. Like, it's going to get to you a few minutes later when it's sent out. And then when you finally, and that's the thing as well, it could end up in your spam folder. It could end up anywhere. So I would just avoid using emails in general as the source for which you get this information, because it just doesn't help. I personally, knowing what's coming, will search for it in the Pulse bar on the hour with the weirdest part of the name, the one that's not going to come up on Pulse very often. In this case, I typed in once, and once a Man Cobra Commander popped up, and it was fine. Anyway.
49er Brian, yes, it's having issues for me because I wanted to double check, because it's funny to me that the HasLab wasn't showing the correct amount of time left through the app. So I just tried opening the app, and I'm glad he said that, because he was telling me that an update is required for me to open Hasbro Pulse on my phone. Yeah. And then when I go to my apps, it doesn't need an update.
Right.
So it's just, it's not working at all right now. I think that what they need to do is add a feature to the app. You have all your major brands there. You need to be able to prioritize, like a checkbox of, go ahead and send me a push notification for G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Like, I want a push notification from this app, but not for everything. I don't need, whenever there's Ghostbuster stuff going up or Power Rangers or anything they want, because then it just becomes noise and I shut the notifications off. I want notifications whenever these things are going up. Or maybe it's an item by item push notification. Maybe you should be able to choose in the app, hey, let me know whenever Once a Man Cobra Commander is going to be available. Because email is somewhat unreliable, but unfortunately, it's one of the few ways that they're communicating to us.
Yeah.
So it's really annoying that I didn't have a week to actually happen upon that email. I only had a few hours, and those hours were personally ones that I was busy getting ready for and doing work.
Exactly.
Like my paying job that I need, Hasbro, in order to give you all that money.
I work just to give that money straight to Hasbro. Yeah, exactly. What's going on? Anyway, that's really good. Coffee and Smokes, we're about to talk about that. Have no worries. So next up then, mate, after Once a Man Cobra, because we know it's a fiasco. And I hope everyone I hope everyone's been able to get one. I know that isn't the case, but if you haven't been able to get one, I do hope that the opportunity does arise in an actual a good way, and not in like having to pay over the odds on eBay for it. In any case, moving on, we've got an update for Nemesis Immortal. Now, Jason's Miscellany on X, or Jedi Jaybird, has posted this, that the classified series Nemesis Immortal is arriving in the US courtesy of Port Information. This is not the first time that Jay has posted, this kind of information. It's usually on point as well. So that's why we report on these posts, because they usually are spot on. And if you were to have that Port Information, you probably have a listing there that says in that manifest, what's the name? I've forgotten the name of him now. Atlas DLX is Pat's favorite.
You're using your code names.
Yep.
I'm over code names.
Well, we've got more to get into. So that is now coming into the ports of the United States, or coming, is arriving, doesn't mean arrived. So, or landed, but is coming in. So this kind of lines up nicely for PulseCon as a pre-order item. And that kind of makes a lot of sense, because we run out of a lot of things for 2024 in terms of listings, other than Starduster, PulseCon exclusive, and Nemesis Immortal. So I could see Nemesis Immortal, based on that logic, being available as a pre-order for PulseCon. That's not confirmation, it's just a guess. It's an educated guess, should we say. And then based on that, we'll probably also have, because it's PulseCon, the first wave of 2025 figures revealed for pre-order as well. So I'd imagine that first wave of retail 4 figures, which we'll look at later on, will probably also be up for PulseCon as well. And then, of course, we've got 1027 as well. So there's still a lot of events to come this year where we could see more pre-orders for classified stuff. What are your thoughts on? We've talked about Nemesis Immortal in the past, haven't we, Pat?
We have, yeah. We have.
Yeah, you a fan of this one?
I think that it looks good. I like the big spikes on his arms.
Yeah.
That was always something on the original figure that it's like, oh man, those it would be nice if those were an accessory or were larger.
Yeah, his little nubs on the vintage one.
and I still feel like tossing that white head on there makes Nemesis Immortal, and then the head that's on in the package, the standard one that's familiar, that's Nemesis Enforcer. Come on.
I like it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, definitely. Oh, thank you, Zartan, for the super chat. There's rumblings that Cobra will discontinue waterboarding and instead adopt Hasbro's methods of making people break. That, yeah, I could see that happening. Thank you, Zartan. Always appreciate your super chats. Thank you very much. That's hilarious as well. Yeah, so I think we can see this one for Pulse. It looks amazing. I love the spikes too. I love that idea of the heads being the character changes for you, so that you've got Nemesis Immortal and Enforcer in a box. Brilliant stuff. And the artwork was pretty phenomenal as well. The render, anyway, on the back, it looks pretty crazy. There's an element here of like some proper, like, old school. I could see this. I could see this as like an angel painting from like the Renaissance era or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I could see that sort of look being incorporated for.
Yeah. I mean, the type of color that's on here, and the fact that he's almost mostly separated from the background by focus,
yeah,
is nice. But
I love that light coming in on the side as well looks a bit angelic. Looks a little bit like, yeah, it looks kind of crazy. I love this. I think it's an awesome piece. I know it's more render than yeah, but it's still the same thing. Someone still had to kind of artistically deal with this, and it's quite beautiful. And I love that little Cobra Commander stuck in a sticky clam down there. Brilliant stuff. Yeah.
On his hips now, those are sheaths for these swords. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Those are always weird, like tubes just on his hips. They didn't have any. They didn't ever serve really get any purpose on the original figure.
Yeah, it's a nice
or in the cartoon design either.
Yeah, it's a nice way to kind of incorporate them into some sort of practical usage. Yeah,
Totally. They always look like holsters for something.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, and then we've got obviously the side shots of the box as well, and there you can see the artwork again, which is pretty dope. Yeah, awesome stuff. Anyway, so that is arriving in the US. So like I said, we can probably expect to see Nemesis Immortal in and around PulseCon, possibly 1027. But I could see PulseCon getting the pre-order for that one. Now we've got a lot of leaked images to get through, Pat. Now I've mixed these in as some old that I've talked about a couple of weeks ago before you were on the when you weren't on the show, and some new ones and some new ones that came in seconds ago before we started. So, okay, we've got here what look to be retro Viper legs. Yeah, would you concur with that?
That makes sense. The texture on the outer part of the leg, looks like what we know as Viper. Yes, I agree.
When I first saw these, the color threw me off, and I thought we were looking at Frag Viper legs. And then it's like, oh yeah, of course, it's a test shot. It's not about the color. It's about the actual sculpt and design and everything. But yeah, definitely, I think that's retro Cobra Viper, to be honest. We also have blowtorch legs. Now this is pretty clear, isn't it? Not many people have the Centurion discs on their body, and I think we can safely say that's blowtorch
or TNT.
Ooh, out of nowhere. Or backstop. No, yeah, you're right. It could very well be, that could be a TNT pre-paint. Could you imagine? The fact that we have a name only reveal for blowtorch makes me think it's blowtorch.
It's blowtorch. Yeah, come on.
Technically, Pat, you might be right, because eventually they might be TNT legs.
Eventually, yeah, we'll see.
We're going to need some sort of relatable HasLab for TNT to appear in, though, aren't we? But yeah, clearly blowtorch thighs right there, and well, actually, the full legs in it. It's the full legs. There's a knee joint in there, and there's also you can see like a little section where there's going to be something like attached to the top part of the leg. So we're going to get something like not a secondary necessarily, but like a part that's separate to the mold that will attach into that section, which is quite exciting.
You don't think that's just more of his what you would call connection points?
Yeah. Centurion connection points.
Yeah, I think that that's probably just to make the armor stand out and look a lot better, since it'll be a second piece. You know, that does look, it makes it look more layered whenever it's not part of the same mold.
Definitely. Anyway, so yeah, there you go. There's Blowtorch's legs. We've also got this, which kind of caused a little bit of like a, not a furore, but like a lot of conversation around, you know, the fact we've got Blowtorch coming, the fact it does look like a, you know, a tank that he might lug around as a flamethrower. But at the same time, a lot of people were mentioning that it actually looks more like something a diver would wear rather than, you know, Blowtorch. And the fact that Blowtorch is more fire starter than he is a fire putter outer, it's an interesting comment. What do you think? Do you think we're looking, it's too much of a coincidence, or do you think we might be looking at something that a diver would use?
It kind of does, but I don't know, with the valve at the lower part of the back.
Yeah.
Is that normally how a diver ever has theirs?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that there's a lot of like, not contradictions, but there's a lot of like, there's a contradictions in the actual thing we're looking at, like where it could be one or the other, and no one really kind of knows necessarily at the moment. My thought is to go with the most obvious, which probably is Blowtorch. But aside from that, I love the fact that we're seeing straps on there so much.
Yeah, it looks like there's a pressure gauge though on there, so that could be a diver or something. I don't know. That's hard to say. It could be for one of the, is there more 60th stuff? There's more 60th stuff coming, right?
There is, but I don't think it's known yet as to what they are. So
they come with so many accessories.
Yeah.
That who knows what this, who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to feel like that. It doesn't feel like this is for Blowtorch to me. I would think that you would get something a little more recognizable, and I almost feel like these straps would interfere with the details that we're familiar with on his
Centurion connectors.
Yeah, like the armor that he probably does kind of need to have to be characteristic of Blowtorch.
A lot of people are saying airtight, but airtight has a completely different backpack, and I don't think they're going to go too far away from that if they do an airtight in the future.
Right, and I don't think that we're going to get the 2 airtight backpacks like we did with the 30th.
Yeah,
this would match one of those.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Possibly then. Possibly. The only thing I will say though is that we haven't heard about an airtight coming yet, I should say.
I don't know. Just give this some code name that doesn't have any meaning, and then it'll be right later. When you just say, well, that code name means the thing that it was, and that's what we were talking about.
This is Biffy. This is clearly Biffy. So
sure.
There you go. We also have this, which we think is Heavy Duty's bandolier based on the vintage Heavy Duty figure. Very similar looking kind of setup. You can see like the classified GoPro on the top, the 2 grenades, and then like the kind of pretty standard issue belt strap, really. But yeah, this based on the Heavy Duty vintage figure, it's probably that. And the fact that we know that's coming as well, it's very likely Heavy Duty's strap. Would you concur with that one, Pat?
Yeah, but I want to see his battle desk. That's the thing that I want to see.
Hell yes. I hope they do it as ridiculous as the original, though. I hope we get that desk. He's a deluxe figure, so we should do. Yeah, yes, with the little cabinet with little files in it. Oh my god, that would be hilarious. Yeah, brilliant.
I know it's not a desk. I wonder if anybody thinks that we really believe.
I believe it's a desk. I definitely believe it's a desk. He got a desk job, but he took it too far. He took it to the next level. Yeah, and then of course we've got this little secondary, which looks to be a belt, and it could possibly be Heavy Duty as well. But again, I'm not sure. I'm only saying Heavy Duty because it's in the same sort of photo set as the
and it's in the same color of the test shot. Now, sometimes when they're testing multiple figures, you will have the same color plastic on multiple molds that are not related. So it's possible that it's not, but yeah, it seems like it is to me.
Yeah. Retro says, looks like the Demons of the Deep backpack, the tank. Yeah, it could be. I mean, Hydro Viper would be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, again, like I we haven't heard hide nor hair of a Hydro Viper, but that doesn't mean anything. It could very likely be in the works for sure. That bandolier is for a meeting that should have been an email. That's hilarious, Necro. That's hilarious. All of the gear that Heavy Duty comes with should be office related. There should be a little picture of a cat hanging from a was it a clothesline that says "hang in there" underneath it, or you don't have to be mad to work in this office, but it helps. That's another one I see a lot in offices. That's what he should come with to arrange around his a little stationary thing that you can put pens and stuff in,
like a swing line stapler.
Yeah, a stapler, but in jelly. Anyway, yeah, we'll stop talking. Next up, we have what is clearly the Frag Viper's backpack. There's a few other things on here actually, though. I believe it is Leathernecks rifle and an interesting, like what looks to be crowbar pick sort of instrument, which hasn't been seen yet in the line. And a lot of people were speculating whether it could be some sort of like item for maybe Blowtorch. Again, he's not a firefighter. He makes the fires, but I'm sure they'll put him in like a firefighter, fire starter sort of, you know, team or situation or narrative. So possibly, would you say that look?
Yeah, possibly. I'm having trouble figuring out what's going on toward the very top of the picture there with it. Is there still a bit of the flash on it, or is
no? It's almost like a pickaxe sort of thing. It's like a little.
Okay, that's not like a peg though to the right hand side of it, is it?
Not really sure. I think it's just to balance out the fact that it would be like a pick head.
Okay.
I don't know actually. It's hard to say.
It also looks like it shouldn't be bent this much. Like maybe it's made of softer plastic.
For sure. That's 100% the case. Yeah. I mean, that's been the case for a long time that the stuff has been too bendy. But yeah, absolutely. And Frag Viper's backpack, pretty clear that one. I think we can all agree on that one. It's got the grenades lined up and everything. And I imagine the pipe servicing the Cesta that we'll see in a second as well will be attached to that.
You know, you could do it with Blowtorch with that accessory up top.
What?
That could be for him cooking hot dogs over a steam.
Pork chop sandwiches.
Yes.
It's his pork chop sandwiches grill situation. Yeah, totally. People saying it's a Halligan pry bar. Thank you. That was Liquid Identity 101 for the full description of that. New York Night 1974 adds to that as well. Yeah, it's a Halligan bar that firefighters use. Pipe servicing, Kitty says Mark. Rattler will have a bendy tail fin, says Zoran. That's hilarious. Could you imagine if the whole like back just is warped because it's bendy, made of bendy plastic? Codename Iowa says, are we getting a firefighter in the 60th line? It's possible. We have had firefighters in like old G.I. Joe kind of eras in the 60s. So yeah, I would. It wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility, especially with Blowtorch in the line.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that that's what I thought it was, but that's kind of where my mind was with the 60th. Is it seems like it would make sense since we've gotten it in classic G.I. Joe that maybe that tank is for a firefighter and this thing is as well for the same firefighter.
Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It makes a lot of sense if those two things are for that. Because yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Blowtorch's backpack, if we do see it, is probably going to be a lot closer to the vintage.
Yeah, and looking up Halligan bar, it does seem like there's still a bit of flash or an extra piece there off to the right that looks like it's a bit extra still on the end of that thing, because there's only like 2 spikes on the end of a Halligan bar, and that definitely has 3.
Liquid Identity said, since they're reissuing a lot of Cobra Island figures, could we see a re-release of Barbecue? I don't necessarily think we'll see a re-release of Barbecue. Maybe like because I mean he's pretty close to the retro, to what we consider a classic Barbecue. But maybe reutilizing some of his parts might make sense, or some of his accessories could also work in that sense as well. Yeah. Anyway, Mark says, surely we will get a Joe Colton and Atomic Man, etc. for the 60th at some point. Well, I don't think they're doing it that way, Mark. I think the 60th, or the Legacy line, which is what it's known as now, is more a modern version of those homaging the older things. So it's not necessary that we do get that. I think you'll see Joe Colton, yeah, but probably just in the classified series, not necessarily as a Legacy figure. But we'll see, I guess, at some point eventually.
I'd like to see some more classic stuff in those Legacy ones, personally, like some of the more classic designs. I think the obvious one, I still think, is the not just Joe Colton, but also the Green Beret. Like if they did a full Green Beret, like a classic one based on the 12-inch figure, with maybe some new stuff as well in there.
Yeah,
that may be a way of spreading out some of the cost for a much better Falcon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyway, okay, cool. So that's Frag Viper's backpack and some other assorted goodies. And this is the Frag Viper Cesta. Nice to see it so, close to the original as well. That kind of iconic look and the little machine gun element on the top, and the little port for the hose and everything. I think this one's going to be a nice one. I think the Frag Viper is going to be pretty dope, actually. I'm excited to see that.
I always think about how you really have to be careful. Frag Vipers in that NES game, man, they take your health off fast.
Totally.
They do.
And they look really cool as well. So I'm excited for that one, definitely. Pat always has to get that game in somehow. So that game, I'm surprised you haven't heard of version 3 Snake Eyes today.
You did it for me.
I've done it already. I've done it. I've fallen into the trap that he set. Pat set that trap. Anyway, that's the Frag Viper piece. Now, the new parts that have shown up, courtesy of, I think it's Sean Liu again. I think it is anyway. Yes, I believe it is. Now, he posted these images online from Weibo, and we've got a secondary here of what looks to be Footloose's secondary that's going to be on the Footloose figure. Now, we know Footloose is coming. And if you look at the figure, the original mold, the position of these things, like the knife sheath on the right-hand side, technically left as you look at it, but his right-hand side if he's wearing it, and of course the grenade there on that side, you can definitely kind of see Footloose in this, including the pouches as well. So very likely that this is going to end up being on the Footloose figure. Pretty cool to see that, actually, Pat. Do you agree? Do you think it looks like it's going to be on Footloose?
Well, now that you pointed out, sure, but I was kind of just trying to run through my mind on who this could be. But yeah, looking at Footloose, it makes sense. There is that spacing. Obviously, Footloose doesn't have that other pouch on Footloose's right side, but not everything is matched exactly to the vintage stuff. So maybe they just wanted to balance it out a little more.
Yeah. And I think giving them a bit of depth on like the body, a little bit of kind of like difference, I think that will help, honestly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is what do you call it? What am I talking about? Yeah, that is Footloose. Now, there's other elements as well that pop up in some of these pictures that I don't think have been pointed out necessarily, but do make me think of a lot of other things. This is one of them. Now, we've been told or been informed that these are Footloose's legs as well in the image. Because again, and they look like them, it's pretty generic kind of camouflage pants with the pouches on the right-hand side, on the outside, right? Again, that's very Footloose related and it looks very close. But if you look to the right-hand side of that image, Pat, something jumps out to me very, very violently in a way that may have jumped out to me when I was a young lad watching the beginning of the Action Force movie back in 1980, whatever it was. And that is what looks to be hands that you would probably likely see on Pythona. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. And I will say that while we said earlier that the color sometimes is not indicative of the character, like when you're talking about the Viper, whenever things get closer, like whenever they get further along, they will test them also in the colors that they plan to use quite often, right? So is that what we're looking at here? Because that lavender and then that flesh tone on the hands, it does kind of look like Pythona. But what about the clear parts? The clear blue? Like, do you see the clear blue feet
Yeah,
at the bottom of the picture?
I think they might just be. They could be anybody. I can't tell, but they could just be anybody. It could be Footloose's feet for all we know.
Okay.
But I don't know. And also that part on the top right, that looks like possibly. Am I wrong in thinking that might be like Road Pig's kind of like pads? Do you know what I mean? Like there's a big section missing where they could probably plug that huge skull in or whatever it is. I don't know.
Maybe. I thought that looked like it was some sort of cape-like design, to be honest.
In clear... Oh, yeah. So you thinking it might be like a piece for Pythona again?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, because those feet at the bottom also look very slipper-like.
Yeah, they do. They look a bit too big to be Pythona's feet, though.
Do they? Maybe.
Well, they're almost like in scale to the legs of Footloose. I'm not saying they're the Footloose's feet, but they, in terms of size-wise, it looks like they could be.
It definitely looks like there's some kind of hard toe on them.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to tell with these bloody images, but that to me screams Pythona, and it screamed Pythona more than that screamed Footloose's legs to me, I've got to admit. And what's that piece on the left? That kind of intricate, almost like sash that's got some design in it. Is that something from a different toy line, do you think? Like, could it be Black Series or something?
No, it kind of puts me in mind of Vipera from the Toys R Us pack.
The six, is it 6-pack? I think there was 6 of them in there.
Pack, which I guess really I should just say Storm Shadow, because that was from the Valor versus Venom Storm Shadow.
Yes. Kind of like a little sash sort of with the design on it and everything. Yeah.
I mean, that could also be like the kind of thing that would be like a sash that goes over to join with some soft goods, like a soft goods skirt of some kind. Do we have any characters coming that way? I mean, maybe we have a handy list with not code names on it somewhere.
We can have a look and see if any of it lines up later. But yeah, and I think there is one more to look at, and that's this. This was posted as well and looks to be different from one that we saw in a different image that was actually like a Black Series bazooka. And this is slightly different, and people are thinking that maybe we're going to be looking at Zap's bazooka here. What do you think?
Perhaps. I mean, again, it's hard to say. Like the way that they've been front loading some things, this could be for a 60th character as well. Although I don't necessarily think that would make a ton of sense, because as Larry Hama pointed out in 1982, a bazooka doesn't really make a ton of sense. Just a straight up old fashioned bazooka.
Yeah.
But yet the word bazooka is fun. And so kids still learn about it, and it's still, as far as G.I. Joe not being real, you know, we said earlier that you can have whatever dogfighting, you could still have a bazooka in G.I. Joe. It doesn't really make sense, but it could go with almost anything in my mind there.
80s Toy Boy has made a very good point here. I'm looking at a pic of a stormtrooper with that bazooka right now. Okay, that's good to know. So this is probably not Zap's bazooka then, and it is what I thought initially, that it could be a Black Series bazooka. I need to look at that.
What stormtrooper would come with this?
Stormtrooper bazooka. Yeah, it is the exact same one. It's 100% that bazooka.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It's 100%. I think we can safely say that it is probably not anything to do with G.I. Joe.
I think probably we not anything to do with. Also that this would be a great bazooka to put with a custom Zap.
There you go. That is it, pretty much. Yeah, if you've got a custom Zap going on there, you've got a bazooka for him. Yeah, it's the Stormtrooper. Is it an Amazon exclusive? Anyway, it's a Stormtrooper situation.
Okay,
Jedi Fallen
Order. Yeah. There's just so much stuff coming. Like, there's just a lifetime of toys in the last 5 years.
It's good to know and make that very clear, though, in this particular situation. So yeah, we can pretty much say it ain't Zap's bazooka. So that is good to know.
So it's Luminara. McMurphy says the long sash piece on the left matches Star Wars Luminara Undulli's front robe. But yeah,
good. Thank you, CC Russell.
So then the hands don't go to like Asajj Ventress or something, do they?
Well, that's what I thought initially. When we talked about this off camera, I said it could, the fact that, we've had Black Series. We'll go to this image because I don't want to, because the Black Series have got multiple different things in production as well. When these images come out of the factory floor, I'm saying floor because it looks like the bloody floor on this image. We see mixed up parts. We see classified, we see Black Series, we see Marvel Legends. So it's not a surprise that with some of this stuff might be like, oh, maybe it's for this, and then it isn't. So we're saying it could be Python. It's just one of those things that got us excited. But at the same time, yeah, it could be like some sort of like person, like a character from Star Wars, like one of the witches that we've been seeing a lot of recently. Yeah. Maybe it's their hands. Maybe it's like a blooming, like all old Emperor sort of fingers and hands. Who knows? Yeah, well, someone will know because they'll have the exact hands to match up with them. But yeah, interesting. Yeah. So anyway, we've definitely poo-pooed the fact that is definitely not Zap's bazooka. It is the Stormtrooper.
Person that posted that.
Yeah, 100%. It's the exact same design and everything that we've looked at. Anyway, and yes, Tor, there are other images of Darklon's rifle, which we've covered a couple of weeks ago as well, and retro Viper parts as well. There's loads of leaked images going around at the moment. Anyway, let's get to Pat's favorite part. But look at all that green, mate. Look at all that lovely green that we know has happened and been.
Yeah, that's all
gone.
Stuff that's I mean, some of it at this point is already out, but yeah.
Exactly. Some of that is even in hand. I have some of those figures, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Torch, Jinx, Doc, Norgahide, the HMS, Eels, Beachhead, Roadblock and Tripwire, the Night Force Ram, the Ferret, the Wreckage, 11, and then the rest I don't have. So I've got 11 of those. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Oh, no, I've got more than that. I've got Lowlight and Spirit as well.
Wow. Okay.
Phenomenal. Amazing. Okay, cool. So, yeah, 2024, a good year. Moving on to 2025, Pat, and this is what I was talking about before. The first wave, retail wave, will probably also be up for pre-order for PulseCon, I would imagine, because this is getting when it gets delivered as opposed to when it gets revealed. So Xandar, Saw Viper, Leatherneck, and Dial Tone, if I expect to see them for PulseCon, basically. And then we know, obviously, Frag Viper, Blowtorch, somebody else, and Footloose. And I think everyone knows who that someone else is now, based on some of those leaked weapons that we saw a while back, or weapon, specifically iconic Darklon weapon. I think we can all understand now that is what that person is. And then if you go over to the exclusives and miscellaneous side, we know that Heavy Duty is a deluxe figure. We know that Law and Order is coming now. And we did... of course, the Claw, we know the Rattler is, and we know that the Viper, Mindbender, and Rock and Roll are coming in the retro line because they've been name only revealed, and we know that those are the ones that they line up with on their listings. We also had 2 new listings pop up very recently. That is Trent Pet and the Legacy RR Angelica, which is another 60th or Legacy figure to add to the list. So there you go. The pink text is not for Cobra La. It is to highlight the fact that we have 2 new items joining the team, the listings. So that's pretty much it. We don't have to go through them, Pat. Don't worry. It's just really for people who are keeping track of this stuff in the comments. We also know that these are the latest name-only reveals in Footloose, Heavy Duty, Law and Order, Blowtorch, Rock and Roll, Frag Viper, Mindbender, and the Vipers. Those are the name-only reveals we're aware of at the moment, and the digital renders, and they exist in digital renders and nothing else. That is Dial Tone, Leatherneck, Saw Viper, Claw Trooper, sorry, the Claw with Trooper, and Xandar. Yeah, that claw's pretty dope. Have we spoken about that yet?
We've not. No, I'm surprised at how large it is.
It's massive.
It is big. Yeah,
and it's
very
got
big.
Loads of cool, like, you know, bits moving and stuff and features. I like it. I think it's really cool.
I like what they did with the landing gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always something that I thought would be like scary or weird if you were a person trying to land. Like, you have to like plank and have your core strength to have your knees not drag.
And your face, like, looking at the ground, just like, oh my God. You would be in there, wouldn't you? You'd be locked up, like, tense as you were landing.
Realistically, with the original Claw, you would just land with your legs somehow.
Maybe it's for drone.
Exactly. I think that it was for the drone because they had that bomb that you could also just send it in as a drone.
Yeah, because could you imagine? There's no way I'd land it face first. Amazing. Right, that's it for the show. We'll go now into shout outs and we'll get through those. We'll do that next. Let's do it. Have you tried Hoarder yet? No? Well, you need to. If you have a collection of things and want to create a fun and easy way of organising it and of course showing it off, then get involved. You can post items and build collections, and you can drop a status like getting a fun delivery or seeing some awesome related stuff on your travels. Build your collections with Hoarder. The app is free to download on Google Play and the App Store, so what are you waiting for? Get to hoarding. We were going to do this in about an hour, and then I realised, we have gone way over that. Sorry, Pat. No. Let's do it for shout-outs, buddy. You start us off.
Shout out, as always, to Philip. We did, if you haven't seen it, there is an episode of Articulated Points up that we did as a part of Cobra Convergence that we haven't mentioned. I don't know if you've seen that. We basically went over a packet of animation cells that Philip had obtained sometime back. Yeah, it was one of those ones we talked about doing at some point and then just hadn't done it. And then he mentioned it. It's like, yeah, that's going to be fun. So we put that together.
Awesome. Link in the description if you want to check that out, guys, for all of Articulated Points videos. And yes, Pat, I have seen it. It's awesome. I tend to watch your videos immediately, straight away. I know it's slightly difficult for you to do the same. Because it's like, Chris has got a 3-hour live stream up that I can't access at the moment and have to find 3 hours of my life at some point to watch. So no, but I'm not saying you need to. I'm just saying when your videos drop, it's usually an instant watch straight away, and an instant share. So massive shout outs to you and Phil for doing great stuff on Articulated Points. Moving on, let's quickly just shout out, obviously, Kate and Phoebes and my lovely family, of course, for all the support and everything in the US and the UK. Big shout outs to all of you. To Brian Sauer for our amazing graphics, and for Assembly Required, which is the upcoming G.I. Joe convention in Des Moines, Iowa. We are aiming to be there at the moment, so we'll keep you guys updated. It's happening on the 8th and 9th of November of this year, and like I said, more information to be found on Codename Iowa's website, which is codenameiowa.com. And of course, the Battle Action Force books, the pre-order early bird is still going. You've got about a week left, I think it is. I think it's the 17th of August that finishes. You can get, obviously, volume 1, 17th, yes, it says on the graphic, obviously. We have volume 2 and of course volume 3 as well. You can get all of those for a cut down price. You save a lot of money on that as well. Get in there, get pre-ordering, do it now. And then, yes, what else do we have? That's it for the shout outs, Pat. It's been a quick shout outs, but thanks for jumping back on again. It's good to have you back.
Oh, it's always fun to be back. Yeah, it's been a crazy year, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been nuts, man. It's been nuts. And it's only August, by the way. So in terms of it being a crazy year, we've still got a fair amount to go. We've got like 4 months of it still. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's true. But we're past the halfway point. So yeah, I'm hoping to be on again next week.
Oh yeah, you will. 100%. Right then, guys. Thanks very much for all of your amazing support in the chat, in the comments, whether it's just watching the videos, or if you're a patron as well. Thank you so much for that as well. We're going to have a Patreon video now up every week on the weekend, so I expect to be talking to you guys tomorrow as well with that one. Right. We'll be back for the weekly next week. You'll see me on Let's Talk Classified Footloose as well at some point, if I can pull my finger out and get that done. In the meantime, though, stay fresh, cheese bags. And as always, after 3, you know what to do. 1, 2, 3.
Full force.
Laters. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on X, formerly Twitter, @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page, facebook.com/TheFullForce. We've also added a brand new Instagram, so check us out there as well @TheFullForce Podcast, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on any of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce Podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.